Yes, sir.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Varsha Shrivastava from Bladder Wellness. I hope you all are keeping safe. Please vaccinate yourself and wear a mask when in a public place. Today we are here to talk about urinary incontinence or overactive bladder. Overactive bladder is a frequent or sudden urge to pass urine that may be difficult to control. The condition is common and distressing and may have a huge impact in the quality of life. In this month of World Continence Week, let's unite to raise awareness about incontinence related issues and its impact in the life of people living with it. To throw more light on the subject and guide us on what is right for diagnosis and treatment of urinary incontinence, today we have with us Dr. M.G. Shekhar. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce Dr. M.G. Shekhar to you all. Dr. M.G. Shekhar is a senior consultant urologist from Chennai. Sir has a rich experience of over 22 years in the field of urology and carries out the treatment with utmost precision and efficiency, ensuring that the patient's health are in safe hands. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you in our show. We welcome you.
Namaste, ma. Good afternoon to all. It's an immense pleasure for me to be as a part of this World Continence Week program. I'm thankful to this platform. I'm also so happy to share my ideas on this continence awareness to the public, especially during this COVID era. Let us hopefully chat in the useful manner. That should be more awareness, that will create more awareness to the public so that this problem of incontinence will be mitigated in a much greater way. Thank you.
Let's hope for the best, sir. There are many questions that are there in our viewers' mind. So first we'll start with what is urinary incontinence?
Actually, urinary incontinence is a scientific word. Incontinence, it refers to leakage without their own intermittent body control, involuntary control of these urinations. So it has been typed as three types. One is stress urinary incontinence. Another one is urge urinary incontinence. Another one is mixed urinary incontinence. So whatever things that leakage of urine happens without their own control is a distressing factors for anyone, maybe a male or female or child or adult, whoever maybe. So when they cough, when they laugh, or when they sneeze, the urine leaking, bit of drops, that should not be considered as a general nuisance, or that should not be considered as a part of the body mechanisms. It should be noted as a disease. It should be seek immediate attention. They should seek some urologist. So mixed is both the stress and the urge incontinence. Urgency is the undesirable, that is they don't have the control over the desire to hold the urinations when they have the first sensation of urine. That's called urgency. Sometimes it may end up in leakage of urine also. So mixing of both stress and urgency is called mixed urinary incontinence. Why this has been classified? To evaluate in a particular direction, to give particular curative aim to the corresponding factors which is predominating in their own individual. That's what has been classified.
So these are the different types of incontinence that we may have in our life that we may have to go through. And sir, who are more prone to this disease? Elderly patients or even youngsters can have it?
Actually, this no age group is particularly escapable, that they can't avoid this OAB. OAB is a simple catchy term. OAB, overactive bladder. Over means something's in excess. That should be more frequency, more time of the passing urine. Active means the desire, urgency. Urgency is so bladder is so active. It's not a normal pattern of activity. It's an abnormal pattern of activity. So when the bladder has the tendency to leak on its own without any control, that's incontinence. So frequency, urgency, incontinence, that is three terms are called as fun. We used to call it as fun. Frequency, urgency, nocturia. Nocturia means more number of frequency going during the night time. This OAB ultimately a superficial part of the underlying biggest problem. Maybe in some factors. We are thinking it's a very common symptom. So whatever symptoms we are taking, patients are complaining, we are given the coin name as OAB. But basically, OAB is a minor part of the diagnosis made with this symptom. It's actually idiopathic conditions, which is evaluated as the final mode of diagnosis. Initially, they will be evaluated in rule of all other factors. all other common factors which can be immediately cured, which can temporary, those things are eliminated to give you a final diagnosis of overactive bladder. The overactive bladder is something connected with the idiopathy. Idiopathic means no, they don't have the specific proper cause for this existing symptoms, mostly related with the neurological problem. So all people of age group, from child to adults, are they would have experienced this fun, that's the OAB symptoms, at least once in their lifetime. So nothing to worry about that. So nothing to panic. So I'm having this OAB, what I do. So nothing to do. Anyway, because of the stress factor, since it's mind related, because of the infection, which is very common with the young childhood, because of the school, they are postponing their urinary symptoms. They would have had the urgency symptoms. My motto, my here point is to say that all age groups are vulnerable. All age people have at least one time experienced this OAB. That doesn't mean that they have the disease. They should be taken for evaluation. They should be given medication, something like that. So men and women are equally affected with OAB. Sometimes some statistics, those women are in higher proportion than men. Women are post-menopausal age group, because the post-menopausal, the ovaries tend to shrinkage. There is less estrogen. The luster, smoothness of the mucosa goes into trifactor. So it causes thicknesses. They are more prone for this infection and incontinence. Men, those at the age goes, they have this prostate problem. Prostate is sometimes associated with these OAB symptoms. And who are suffering with disease, comorbid factors. We used to say the comorbid factors. Diabetics and neurogenic patients who are having this multiple sclerosis, Parkinsonism, spinal cord injury patients with the RTA, spinal cord diseases. All these patients have these OAB symptoms and they are more prone for this urinary incontinence. When we study in UG, we used to have the mnemonic that is called as diapers. Diapers is actually one form of controlled treatment for this incontinence OAB. But you used to remind this as a diaper as the cause for evaluating the patients who are having this leakage. D means to delirium. I refers to infection. A refers to atrophy. Atrophy means the laxity, going of laxity of the mucosa, especially in the post-menopausal patients. And P refers to medicines. Some medicines definitely will cause this incontinence. We have to rule out based on the consultant who has given those medicines. That doesn't mean we need to stop the medicine. We should explain it's a temporary, or we have to change with the good medicines which doesn't have this incontinence. E for this is a exocrine factors, some factors which are causing this exorology factors. Etiology, maybe some trauma, some infections, those factors. And yes, R for restricted mobility. Those patients who are all in bedridden patients, paraplegic patients, post-op patients, elderly patients with this post-surgery, those have this temporary period of this urinary incontinence. Yes, for stool impact, constipation. Definitely, constipation is the most common factor which are experienced in my practice. It's more number of patients, those are going to colleges, school age group, and elderly patient also. It will indirectly causes this urinary incontinence as a result of impaction the pathway of the urinary tract. Their main complaint would be urinary incontinence or this fun symptom, frequency, urgency, or nocturia. And evaluations with parietal examination, we will be finding a impacted stools, which is the real culprit for causing the problem in those individuals, and that should be treated. So I think I have covered all the things for those patients who are predisposing to urinary incontinence. Yeah.
Many important points have been covered regarding urinary incontinence, who may have it. Not only elderly patients, but even children and youngsters can have it at any given point of time. Once in a while, they can have it. But there's no need to worry. There's no need to worry. This is for all our viewers. You don't have to worry because the cure is there to this problem. Okay. And so what are the food items that we must avoid in order to save ourselves from urinary incontinence?
So how can you are asking about the foods to avoid UAB?
Yes.
Yeah. There are certain kinds of foods that's called bladder irritants. Bladder irritants, excessive intake of alcohol, smoking, those things are excreted. Though byproducts are excreted both through the bile, feces, and urine. So when it comes through the urine, this will toxin irritants. So it will causes the bladder to go contract immediately, and it will cause spasm also. So you should avoid these caffeinated drinks, coffee, theophylline, which are also it will boost the mind, but it will also fastens your urinary activity, urinary bladder contractions. So those people who are all diagnosed and pinpointed with this overactive bladder, they should be advised to restrict the foods such as bladder irritants, coffee, carbonated drinks, excess sugar, excess spicy and oily foods. They should quit smoking, reduce the intake of alcohol. They should see that they are taking lesser amount of water during the evening and night before going to bed. Maybe they can take the water intake for the thirst, not so in excess after this evening and before going to bed. Those are so that the frequency at the night time may be reduced.
Mhm. So obviously alcohol is injurious to your health, and even smoking, it has many adverse effects on your health. So that should be avoided, even if you're having urinary incontinence or even if you're not having it, that should be avoided. And sir, once we get to know that we have got urinary incontinence, we can get it treated?
How can be treated?
Yes.
The treatment, basic treatment, we should focus on the particular person who is presenting the symptoms. Even though there are general treatment that will start with the basic evaluation based on the symptoms, which is ultimately predominating. I said no, 3 types of incontinence: stress, mixed, urgency. Yes. And what are the frequency of that? How many times they are passing during the night time and daytime? What's their age? First, our aim is not to focus on the OAB. When they present the symptoms, our aim target will be to rule out the underlying major significant diseases. So based on the symptom, based on the age group, we shall evaluate the symptom. We'll start with the basic routine clinical examinations. That itself will bring out a lot of factors which is causing these symptoms. Young people will have the phimosis. Their superficial penile skin will be adherent to the tip of the meatus and it will occlude the pathway. There will be some abnormality in the urinary opening. And young child females will have the back spine problem. There is one condition which is very common in our sector called spina bifida, spinal dyspareunism. So those also, they won't be noticed, but since their birth, when they present the symptoms, this evaluation starts from the symptoms, examination of the spine, examination of the muscular system, examine the genitalia, parietal examination, parietal examinations. We identify the proper respective factors for the patient and treat it accordingly. Once they are established with the overactive bladder, ruling out the other major dangerous diseases, the treatment starts with the basic lifestyle changes. The overactive bladder main culprit is sometimes associated with stress, sometimes with the neurologic weakness, and other anatomy pathology we are ruling out. We are treating the anatomy pathology and then we are making a diagnosis of overactive bladder. For those patients, the main form of treatment is lifestyle modifications and behavioral modification. As I said before, the foods which are all bladder irritants should be eliminated or should be restricted. Apart from that, they should see that they are having a periodical access to the restroom based on their something called as voiding degree. Voiding degree is what's the amount of urine passed, how frequently they are passing the urine. Everything will be noted for 2 or 3 days. Based on the calculations, we will be addressing to them how frequently they will be voiding the urine, so that they should be aware, they should be accessible to the restroom immediately based on that. And next line comes this medications. Medications, there are very good medications to control this bladder irritation, to release the spasm. Actually, the pathology here is like touch me not plant. We all know that there is a plant called touch me not. When we touch, it shrinks. It shrinks to protect itself. But here, bladder is something like a constituency of this touch me not plant. More or like the constituency like a snake, the snake constituency, or something like a fish constituency. So when you touch the bladder, it tends to avoid by paralysis, by movement, giving a movement that look like a flow of the water. So this bladder is irritated. This is bladder get irritations because of this pathology and the intakes of the food irritants. So when we touch the bladder, as it winds away from the protective mechanism, the bladder tends to contracts and it's to eliminate the etiological factors. Whatever things come, it's eliminate. That's what is before overfilling of the bladder to adequate capacity, the brain signals sends the bladder to contracts before its full capacity. So it contracts, causing more frequency, urgency, and incontinence. So the treatment, lifestyle modifications, medications, and when these groups are ruled out with other major factors, delineating other dangerous diseases such as spinal problem, bladder masses, bladder stools, urinary tract infection, bladder cancer, bladder malignancy, all the things This is the one important week which is not only focusing on the urinary symptoms such as called OAB or urinary incontinence. This awareness makes the people to seek the urologist or medical fraternity to seek an immediate attention so that these things can be controlled with the Google knowledge or with the webinar knowledge. People can treat themselves with self-modification, lifestyle and behavior conditions. What major impacts is the ultimate, the underlying the pathology. We will be ruling out those pathology, we will be correcting that. After that, making the diagnosis of OAB with the lifestyle modification medicines, there are certain group of people who need surgery.
Yes,
Their group is called as refractory OAB. Refractory OAB means with the lifestyle modification, with the medicines, after 3 months of course of these medicines, still they have the consistent complaints of these symptoms. Those patients should be taken for the surgery. Surgery means there are good number of options are available based on the particular patient's problem. We can plan that. Recently, has been practicing this medication called Botox. Botox means it's a botulinum toxin. Botulinum toxin nowadays it has been used in more number of medical fields. The one thing which has been proved in a good manner with good efficacy is this overactive bladder. So when we rule out the other causes of this overactive bladder, such as infection, fines problem, masses, stones, then ultimately we'll be taking this patient to lifestyle modification medication, which is also not giving a efficient treatment for them after a 3 months course of this time. This patient can be given this Botox toxin infiltrations into the bladder. That is a minor, minimally invasive procedure. This really has good efficacy. This efficacy can be lasting for 6 to 9 months. And some patients may be adapting with a single dose of this Botox injection, but most of the people will need especially this group of refractive OB people will need frequent periodical infiltration of these Botox toxins. The ultimate one major surgery, which is very dominantly used for people who is continuously leaking, we will be creating a sphincter over the bladder. We will be dividing the bladder, substituting the bladder with some bowel segment to make the urgency to settle, and we will be creating a sphincter-like pattern for them also. That's the major surgery that's really indicated in patients of 1 in 10,000 patients who are not responding to these lifestyle modifications and medications.
So there are various treatments available. Yes, via medication also and via surgery also, the cure is there. So there is nothing to worry about. And so whenever we take any medication, there is something or the other side effects related whenever we take any medication. So it's the same case with the medication taken for urinary incontinence? Side effects?
Yeah, side effects. There are side effects. That's what this. There is a myth for this OAB. Medications will 100% will definitely cure this OAB. That's not the factor. What all urologists advise initially is to go for this lifestyle modifications and behavioral modification. That definitely works out for 60 to 70% of peoples. And some people definitely need medications, which may be a single medication to start with. If they are not responding with single medication, they have the multiple combination medicines. Why to start with single medications? Why we are preferring a medication with the second line of treatment? Because of the side effects. The basic mechanism of this medicine is to inhibit the bladder contractions whenever it gets irritated, whenever it has the tendency to go for spasmodic contractions. So this is called as anticholinergic system mechanism. Anticholinergic, something related with the glands. When the sweating is caused by this cholinergic pathway, the stress, anxiety, the mechanism defends ourselves in emergency is caused by this cholinergic pathway. So when we inhibit this cholinergic pathway, this mechanism, they have a lot of corresponding side effects which may be involved in other part of symptoms where they have this cholinergic pathway. Dryness of the mouth, constipations, dryness of the ears, eyes, something deliriums also. So these symptoms definitely was prevalent when I started my practice before 10 to 50 years back with these medicines. Now the medication has been defined to a certain level of specific site actions. It has been classified as various receptor. Now there are specific type of receptor acting drugs which cause less side effects. Comparatively, there is temporarily decrease in the lesser amount of side effects. Good remedy. So we no need to bother about the side effects. That the urologist will take care, and they will be starting in a good lower doses corresponding to the body weight and caliber. So my side is no need to worry about the side effect, but definitely you should be given awareness. We should be monitored when we are taking medication for a long period of time.
The side effects are there, but there's nothing to worry about it because the cure to that side effect is also there. So
Correct.
not to worry. Now coming to the surgery part, whenever patients hear about the surgery, they get really scared because they think that it will pain, and what if the surgery is not successful? So does it really cause pain, and how much is the success rate for the surgery?
As I said, OAB, a superficial tip of the iceberg, underlying iceberg. Very common form, very famous term. And especially we have created much about this incontinence to all of the people. Our aim is to come for evaluations. The OAB is a simple, common, definitely controllable, definitely treatment. The underlying iceberg is a major impact, but we are targeting. So patients who are having this bladder mass, bladder stones, urinary tract infection, spine problem, constipation, bowel problem, all these people will present with this OAB. So on evaluation, they will be ruled out when they has these factors, especially if they are patient elderly male with this OAB symptoms with urinary incontinence. If he has significant prostate problem, we will be starting with the prostate medicines. If they are refractory to the medications, he will need surgery. That's a TURP, prostatic surgery. This is for example, the patient is having the prostate cancer. He also may present with the symptoms like OAB. He is not a case of diagnosis of OAB, but it is a case of prostate cancer. But he is presenting the symptoms of OAB. On evaluation, he will be diagnosed with the prostate cancer and he will be treated. So ultimately, all the symptoms will be relieved. So OAB on evaluation, we will be finding the underlying factors. Those factors will be treating with surgery. So completely, we are elaborating the underlying disease for the people and treating surgery. Specifically, there are certain surgeries allocated only for this OAB. As I said before, we will initially start with the lifestyle modification, behavior modification medicines. If it doesn't work out, then we'll go for this surgery for the refractory OAB people. The initial best treatment undergone now is minimally invasive therapy, installation of the Botox toxin. It's called endosurgery. We'll be infiltrating the Botox through the cystoscopy and then 1 minute. Sorry.
There are many things related to surgery, and the patients, they don't have to worry about it because the solution, and it also depends upon the kind of problem related to OAB, as sir has very well mentioned about the prostate. So for that and surgery related matters, you'll have to consult a urologist, and there is nothing to worry about it.
Correct. When even the patient has this refractoriness, they does not respond with the Botox injections and the medications, with continuous involuntary leakage of urine, more frequency, definitely they'll be leading with a depressive mode of lifestyle. This is socially very embarrassing situations. Those patients needs the major surgery where we'll be paralyzing the bladder by dividing it. We'll be decreasing the contraction spasm of the bladder. Also, we'll give the sphincter to the outlet, so that the involuntary controls of urine will be controlled. And those patients will need this mechanism called CAC. So once the surgery is done, they can decide when to let out the urine by themselves, by inserting a tube themselves through the hole created artificially or through the general net. It's a major surgery. As I said before, very rarely indicated with this scenario, but definitely it works out. We have done this type of surgery also.
Okay. And sir, after surgery, how long does it take for a patient to get back to his normal life and start other exercises and physical work?
It's all depends on the pattern of surgery we have undergone. If the patient has the prostate surgery, it's based on the prostatic grade, based on the patient's during the intraoperative, how the course is very uneventful or any eventful complication with the bleeding sepsis. Average, it will take 5 days. 5 days for people to recover from the prostate surgery, maximum 2 weeks. Once the catheter is removed, the catheter can be removed from after surgery from 3rd to 5th day or 2nd weeks also. Sometimes they need prolonged placement of catheter. So this all depends 1 or 2 weeks for the prostate surgery. For Botox, we are doing it in intracare daycare procedures. One day we need to stay for in hospital, and after that, maximum distance will be 3 or 4 days. For other surgery, stone surgery also, the average duration of surgery in hospitals will be 3 to 5 days. Once they recover, it will remove the catheter. So major disturbance from our side, this surgery with the OAV incontinence will be from 5 to 10 days. As I said, the major surgery, which is indicated rarely, those people will have the major impact on the lifestyle post-operative also. They need periodical follow. Their duration of stays will be from 7 days to 10 days. Post-operative, they have to come for routine checkup. 2 weeks, 1 month to 3 months, they have to come in a graded follow-up advice as we prescribed.
Okay, so it's for all the viewers to know that after surgery, proper care is needed, and proper you'll have to take the rest. Otherwise, it will really be really harmful for your health. Those things you'll have to keep in your mind. Now, sir, taking the questions from our viewers. The first question is by A. Raju. He's asking, is there any over-the-counter medicine for frequent urination?
What's this? Is the young age? I think it's all based on the age group. Over-counter medication for the frequency actually is not advisable. Mostly what we have found from statistics, the frequency reason here is UTI, urinary tract infection, or those patients who are not drinking adequate amount of water intake. It's not the water amount of intake is very important. It's main important is the amount of urine you are letting out per 24 hours. So it should be in the average between 2 to 2.5 liters per day. The intake of water in average should be between 2.3 liters of water also per day. So when these two factors come, they experience frequency. Frequency in an elderly patient, in frequency in elderly male, frequency in elderly female, they have all different types of mechanism pathology. So there are no over-count medicines for the frequency in elderly male or elderly female. May suggestive medicines for the young people who have the frequency at the initial stage to advise to take more water initially. We have this concentrated citric acid syrup. There are many brands. We have this Alkeston B6 nucleases, Citralka, Urinalyzer. Many brands are available in the over-counter. We can have the citric acid solution. We can 10 ml can be mixed with 10 ml of 1 tumbler of warm water. It can be taken as a over-counter medicines who are experiencing the first time frequency, especially young age, especially who are suspected to have this UTI or dehydrations. That's the only thing I can suggest. Otherwise, you should definitely seek your family physician or the urologist to go for further evaluation to find out the correct diagnosis and give a proper treatment accordingly.
That is there. What people do generally, they just try to find the symptoms on Google and try to find a cure by themselves. So that should be avoided. As and when you're finding any symptoms mentioned by sir, you'll have to go and consult a urologist. And whatever medicines are advised to you, that those medicines only you'll have to take. This is for all the viewers. Please keep this important point in your mind. Sir, taking the next question, and it is by Kishore Mishra. He's asking, what frequency is considered normal in night time if person is awake?
Night times, actually, the young and middle-aged group, they doesn't wake up to go for restroom. Actually, the frequency maximum allowed during night time is 2 times. 1 or 2 times the normal frequency. Young people and middle-aged group, they should have no wake up during the night time to go for the restroom. Children under the age of 5, under the 10, they have the tendency to go for mere frequency till the bladder gets matured. So an average maximum is 2 is permeable. Maybe elderly patient 3 times it's acceptable, being under evaluation who has been ruled out with all significant major pathology. And totally, if you consider for 24 hours, the statistics say 8 time frequency is normal for 24 hours with an interval of 3 to 5 hours gap. Every 3 to 5 hours, we need to pass to urine. If you are well hydrated, if you are taking periodically a good intake of water intake.
So 8 times in a day is considered normal, and 2 times in a day is considered normal. If it is more than that, then it is the symptom or sign of urinary incontinence. So that you'll have to note. And sir, there is a concept about bladder diary that is advised by most of the urologists. What is the concept of bladder diary and what the patients need to do in it?
So bladder mechanism here is the kidney having the intake of water through the blood from the food items that has been excreted, the constituents of nutrition comes to the blood. The byproducts are excreted through the kidney. Kidney lets the urine out through a small pipe, as if we are having a water tank in our terrace. The water tank, the drainage of urine, the water there is by the pipes letting out into a bathroom or washroom or kitchen. Similarly, the kidney accesses the water tank. It collects and purifies the blood, letting out the byproducts to come to the pipe, which is named as ureter. Ultimately, the bladder collects the byproducts, urine. Usually, it's a non-bacterial collection of nutrition, waste nutrition, most rich in ammonia. So when we have this bladder filling, it should be filled under low pressure. Gradually, at a rate of 1 ml per minute, if the urine gets filled over the bladder. So when this spillage is occur to the capacity of 3 to 4 ml, the brain sends the signal to make the contract to the bladder by delta out the urine. The medications that's why you are giving the medication to inhibit this contraction, especially you are suffering with the overactive bladder. So I feel the proper mechanism, if you know that's based on this physiology only, void diary has been created. Void diary means how many times you are passing urine, what's the amount you are passing urine. The basic simple guideline to measure the urine is a tumbler, what you are using routinely. There are measuring jars are available, but the average, the tumbler has the quantity of 100 ml per. We can allocate a tumbler separately for that. So how many times, what's the water intake you are having, measured in approximately how many ml, how many times you are passing urine, AM, PM, hours, that can be noted. Output of urine, what's the quantity let out. So minimally 3 days should be allocated for measuring this intake output. It's actually called intake output chart, quantity charts. So this patient, usually the normal people, as we discussed earlier, they have this 3 to 500 of frequency, the volume of 300 to 500 ml each ml. The total volume will be around 2.5 to 3 liters per 24 hours. If they drink in excess, they may be in enlarged, it can be beyond this capacity. So this OAB, when you see that they have the more frequency, the amount may be lesser or higher. Those who are taking the tablet called diuretics, they will have more frequency, but the amount of quantity of urine let out also will be higher. So it's an exact chart to decide the ultimate mechanism for the people who are having this pathology. So based on, we can suggest this is your interval frequency. This may be the reason. So this time you should be available to the restroom. This may be the distressing, and some drugs will be specifically giving to the night time based on the white time. Some drugs will be giving during to the daytime. Night time, elderly people, they go to the bathroom in urgency manner, they may have the tendency to fall in the bathroom. Most of the people who are experiencing history of fracture also, they will come in the emergency with the history of fracture, with the history of sudden fall in the bathroom, and they may go for urgent to pass the without causing any leakage on the ground floor. So what my suggestion is, voiding diary is a very good mechanism created in recent years that will be educated to the patients. Based on the chart, we'll be giving the correct lifestyle modification and behavioral modification to the patients, and medicines also based on the frequency during the diurnal time or nocturnal time, when should be taken, we will decide on the package also.
Okay, so bladder diary is very important. You'll have to maintain it, and then you will get to know the correct picture of how are you been affected by the urinary incontinence. And sir, apart from taking the medication and going for the surgery, can we cure it through yoga, doing meditation and some physical exercises, or not?
Yoga, definitely it has a role. Can we cure it with the isolated practice of stress and yoga medicines? Definitely not. We can't guarantee that. The OAB and evaluation, anatomy pathology, it can be cured 100%. Anatomy pathology is there. We treat the pathology, we treat the disease, there is 100% cure. The symptoms can be reduced 100%. OAB diagnosis, we are making it as a rule of exclusion. The urinary incontinence is made rule exclusion. The main mechanism here is disturbance through neurology, stress-related aging factors, and muscle weakness. Definitely, there is a role for these stress-relieving factors of yoga and meditation. When we combine this stress and yoga medicine along with your lifestyle modification medicines, that may be 95 to 19% efficacy with the treatment. But we can't 100% completely cure with yoga and stress relieving therapy. But definitely it has a role. It should be adopted. It should be practiced along with the lifestyle modification and with medicines who are in need of it.
Okay. So yoga and meditation can be done, but you cannot completely rely on that because you cannot cure it without
medication. But it should be practiced. It should be practiced. It can be combined with the medicines.
Yes, you can combine it with the medication, but just not simply rely on that. Medication prescribed by the urologist should be taken at proper interval whatsoever has been prescribed to you.
There is a one type of yoga called Kegels exercises. Kegels exercises, it's available free in the YouTube. That's called as sphincter exercises. So we need to contract our anal sphincter intermittently. When you're better in an empty stomach, we are teaching this form of sphincter Kegel exercises as a post-op recovery for urinary incontinence patients. Those who are having this urethral injury surgery and prostate cancer surgery, they have the tendency to leak in the immediate post-op days. So this is a form of yoga. Ultimately, we are teaching the people. It's called Kegel sphincter exercise. In Tamil, it's called as Kaya Kalpa Payarchi. Traditionally, we have been promoting this form of this yoga therapy to promote as a healing for our life. This yoga actually created for giving a awakening of this Kundalini Shakti to for complete. That is the traditional manner of this sphincter exercise history. But definitely, all the urologists in the post-operative course of this prostate cancer therapy promoting this Kegel exercise therapy, a good form of definite form of yoga, which definitely has an improvement over the sphincter incontinence symptoms. It will control the symptom. The way here is to practice intermittent contraction of the anal sphincter. When you can do the anal sphincter contraction intermittently, it also has the tendency to contract your urethral sphincter also. So daily we have to do it in a 10 to 20 times morning and night for a period of times. Not routinely, continuously you should do that. It should be done according to the advice of the urologist who has undergone this surgery. It has a role. Definitely this yoga has a role.
Okay. And sir, in the end, what would you like to suggest to all our viewers regarding urinary incontinence and that they need to keep in their mind?
There is a network issue. Please repeat the question here.
Sir, what is the, in the end, I would like to ask you, what is the suggestion for all our viewers that are watching you so patiently? What would you like to suggest to all the viewers?
Correct. I want to reinforce 2 points. I have discussed most of these questions. OAB is a common catchy term, overactive bladder. It's not just a symptom of urgency, frequency, or incontinence. It has the underlying massive effect, massive pathology is underlying there. Maybe this OAV may be the first initial symptom which has been risen for you. You can have your self-medications, self-analysis, Google therapy by yourself, or you can get a self-medication also. But if it doesn't resolve in 1 or 2 weeks, definitely you should seek a proper urologist or urogynecologist. Main motto here is to rule out the dangerous illness. We should treat accordingly. Once you are diagnosed with OAP, we will be treating it with lifestyle modification, medicines, everything okay. Second thing is, you should not take this urgency, frequency as a general nuisance of our lifetime policy. Because I had a tendency to see that aged patients will have definitely this incontinence, they ignore the symptom of this incontinence. Our aim, this World Incontinence Week created by the International Continence Society aim is to give you a good quality of life to the elderly people to avoid the socially distressing symptom of this leakage. This is witnessed in the public. They be impressed much. So those things. So it should be treated as a disease, not a nuisance. It is a disease. Definitely it can be controlled and definitely it can be cured to the extreme based on the pathology.
So all these things, all these important points, we all will keep in our mind. And thank you so much, sir, for such an informative session. We have got lots of important points that will really and surely help us a lot regarding urinary incontinence. Thank you, sir, for your valuable time. And thank you to all our viewers for listening all the important points patiently. We will see you all soon in the next session. Till then, take care and God bless you all. Thank you so much, sir, once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much to you and to this Bladder Wellness platform who has given me this chance to discuss the various important factors for this World Continence Week. Thank you so much. Thank you all.